Today I'm going to spend most of my time discussing the budget, which is one of the most important responsibilities of this board and the administration. I want to begin by briefly mentioning the importance of the progress that we've made in one area, performance funding, which I believe holds real promise for accelerating smarter investments in our operations and improvements in how we deliver on our mission. Since we last met as a board, the executive committee, with the authority provided by this board, approved many promising investments in our 24 colleges. CUNY has had a performance management system for many years. It assesses areas such as academic quality, student success, and financial management. The new funding initiative, advocated by the governor and closely aligned with priorities of the university and our colleges, has given the colleges a chance to formulate strategies and seek funding for new targeted approaches through a competitive process. Approximately $20 million was allocated for the first stage, in which our colleges offered proposals. We evaluated the proposals and made awards based on merit. It was a rewarding process with proposals for areas such as accelerating development of online courses, increasing graduation rates, and developing new workforce initiatives. In one example, it's We Want You Back proposal. Queens College will create a system for contacting former students who left in good standing without degrees and recruit them back, offering financial aid and other assistance. Our budget request, which will be presented later this evening, includes funding for expanding and sustaining these efforts. I expect they will enhance our capabilities, provide new models, and allow us to deliver even better outcomes for our students. We are, in our budget, of course, addressing a number of other important priorities. One involves data science and data analytics. Baruch College has created 3 new business majors and 2 minors in this important field of data science and data analytics, with participation of leaders in the finance sector. We're leading a national effort with a number of financial service firms to develop new curriculum and educate more students in data analytics, and the firms are offering internships and jobs. It's a good example of a public-private partnership that I think is so beneficial to our students. I could offer examples for each priority in our request, but I want to use most of my time today to discuss more generally some thoughts on a number of interrelated issues central to the funding and success of this university. First, a topic that is always controversial: tuition. Our budget request includes support for a renewal of what has been referred to as the rational or predictable tuition policy. I know some have claimed the policy is not rational because of its impact on students and their families. I think we can stipulate that no one likes tuition increases, and if I had a choice, there's no question what I would choose: that the state and the city would provide more support and the need for tuition increases would be minimized. The reality is that nationally, a general disinvestment in public higher education has taken place for decades. New York, with its historically generous tuition assistance program, has been one state that has invested more in higher education, although it's clear that CUNY's operations have not been adequately funded in the modern era. In New York, too, we've seen deep budget reductions some years, and in others, modest increases at best. In years where there were significant budget reductions, steep tuition increases up to 37% in one year went to make up for budget deficits. 2 components of the tuition policy the last 5 years are notable. First, the university was allowed to spend the tuition raised on investments in students. And second, it was accompanied by a commitment from the state memorialized in a maintenance of effort provision that prevented the state from reducing the state appropriation year over year to CUNY. In all years but one, the state increased the non-tuition appropriation year over year. But as we know from the current year, when the state has not adequately funded mandatory increases in CUNY's non-discretionary budget items, such as automatic fringe benefit increases, our budgets suffer significantly. With the strong support of CUNY and SUNY, both chambers passed a more robust maintenance of effort provision in the last session that requires the state to fund increases in contractual salary and benefit obligations. We've also joined SUNY, as well as our own students and faculty and PSC and others, in urging the governor to sign this bill. CUNY representatives were in Albany as part of a larger effort just last Friday to urge the governor's support. Everyone here knows too well that our labor contracts are long out of date, and I know everyone agrees with me that we need a fair resolution. We need to do all we can to be competitive for faculty and staff. Funds to support the contract come from 3 sources: And I've been open with everyone, including PSC leadership, about this from early in my tenure. The sources are state and city appropriations, reallocations in existing budget, and tuition. Without additional funding from the state, that leaves reallocations and tuition. And since our budgets are approximately 80% personnel, meaningful reallocations would almost certainly include reductions in workforce. The truth is that we have too few full-time faculty now and too few academic advisors and other support staff. As we continue to enjoy record enrollments and face more demands, cutting important positions is not a constructive alternative. So that leaves tuition. These are facts. People can disagree about choices that should be made, but I don't believe they can dispute the possible sources and availability of funding. What trustees are being asked to vote on today is a request supported by the board's fiscal committee for authority to raise and invest tuition. The board is not voting on a tuition increase, as you know. That decision can be made when we have a better sense of what the state funding picture looks like. It is at least conceivable that a tuition increase may not be necessary or may be required at a level lower than authorized, but the board will make that decision later with more information. A couple of additional points that are relevant, I think. First, we've made it clear that we do not plan to ask the board to consider an increase in tuition next year for the more than 100,000 students who attend our community colleges. There are a number of reasons for this, including the fact that while our senior college tuition is quite low by national standards, our community college tuition is relatively high. And second, while tuition rates have increased in each of the last 5 years, over 65% of our undergraduates actually pay no tuition, mainly because of Pell and TAP support. It appears that the impact of relatively low tuition and significant financial aid does make a difference. CUNY enrollment during these same 5 years has grown 5%, or 13,000 students during that time, equal to the enrollment of a good-sized college. So one final point I want to address related to this subject, and that is the use of tuition revenues. Some say that we should only use it for new investments, especially investments that help students. And among the investments justly celebrated is the addition of almost 1,000 new full-time faculty over the last 5 years. That's a great thing for CUNY and for our students, and I fully support this investment. But the idea that we should not use tuition if it's the only source of available increased funding for supporting our current faculty is wrong in my view. We can make no better investment in our students than in attracting and retaining the best faculty. And as a practical matter, it's more cost-effective and valuable to retain experienced faculty than to have to replace them. So whether the source of investment is state appropriation or tuition, my priority will always be in investing in talent, because I'm convinced it has the greatest impact on our students' education and success. We have a lot of work ahead of us. We must do our best to convince the governor and the legislature to invest more in CUNY because of the incredible return on the investment it provides. We will make difficult decisions on tuition later, depending on the level of state support. We will continue to do all we can to reach a fair agreement, given our fiscal condition, with our outstanding faculty and staff. And we will be driven by the goal of providing the best education for our students, helping them succeed in college and in life. I'll finish on a more upbeat note by mentioning an opportunity I had recently to attend a conference we organized with CUNY staff who help students apply for and obtain important awards. The keynote speaker was a Macaulay Honors Brooklyn College graduate, Zujaja Takir. Her family was forced to flee their native Pakistan when she was a girl, and they came to Staten Island. After earning her degree in history, she won a Rhodes Scholarship and spent 3 years at Oxford. She's now in her second year at Harvard Medical School. What was striking was not just her impressive achievements and maturity, but the thoughts that she shared on how CUNY award staff could help our students earn more distinctive awards. She noted that every student she was competing against for the Rhodes and the other winners were from Ivy League institutions. But she insisted that CUNY should resist the temptation to try to change our story and sound more like them. Our strength in the eyes of the judges for these awards, she insisted, is the narrative of diversity and in some cases of hardship. And that narrative is the persuasive argument we should always make. I'll close with Zujaja's words. We should leverage rather than repudiate what makes CUNY special relative to other universities. Other students are considered privileged because of access to the social and financial capital that comes with going to a privileged elite university. But I've come to realize what a privileged experience it is to be a New Yorker and to go to a university with the student population we have at CUNY. I think Zujaja was onto something. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.